So it is a dangerous sort of through line with respect to how he views what would be his presidency and his governance.
So, and then here's how Nikki Haley's reacting to that online, because she's been going after him with his lack of response to Navalny's death. Instead, she said he stole a page from liberals' playbook denouncing America and comparing our country to Russia. Is this line of attack in these final moments ahead of the South Carolina primary going to help her, going to work for her?
I think at this point, somebody has to. And I think the problem with the Republican Party right now, amongst many things that are kind of going wrong in the Republican Party, but a big part of it is not thinking long term. Mm-hmm. And Donald Trump will not live forever. And we have largely set aside any principles we stood for, the reasons why I became a Republican, standing with our strong foreign policy, smaller, more accountable government, things like that, that Republicans have largely abandoned in the name of Donald Trump to show their loyalty to him. And Nikki Haley is right to be calling this out, especially with Ukraine and foreign aid funding that isn't happening in Congress. It's important to remind folks what the long-term impacts of Trumpism will do to this country, because if you change the rules just for Trump, Republican voters who are all on board for him holding people accountable, you're not looking at the fact that the next president, whoever that may be, can have those powers too. And it goes down the line, and that doesn't always mean it's going to be in their favor.
The question is it too little too late, Basil? You and I have spoken about this before, right? Chris Christie was the guy that was really going after, and Asa Hutchinson, right, when they were still in the race, that were really going after the former president. And now Nikki Haley kind of has made this turn. I want to read for you this quote that I found was really interesting out of the Washington Post. They spoke to the president of a Democratic super PAC, who's put it this way. The way I think of Nikki Haley is she's someone whose apartment started flooding like 10 years ago, and she went and worked for the flood, and now she's putting a towel down and thinking that's going to be effective.
Yeah. Well, that's why I can't welcome her to the resistance just yet, because she has not proven herself to be sort of
if that's what you want her to be a part of.
Right, because she is. This seems like political expediency. She could have said this years ago.
Right.
But she, by the way, has not been on the ballot in her home state in 10 years. The only platform she has is the one that Donald Trump gave her. So no one really expected her to kind of do a 180 and completely go after the person who gave her a job, number one. And number two, all of the language that she's using now, Chris Christie, as we talked about, was using it a lot earlier, and we didn't see her make that turn then, but she's doing it right now. So that's why I cannot welcome her to the resistance. And it looks very expedient for her and easy for her to some extent. Do it when it's difficult, and she did not do that.
What's interesting to me, though, Maura, is that she's actually polling better than Donald Trump is in matching up against Joe Biden in general. Right. And I'm wondering why Republicans haven't really glommed onto that, haven't really grasped that concept yet in this primary calendar.
And it's going to hurt them. They haven't. I think, personally, I think in any case, whether it's a Trump versus Biden matchup, she's talked about this at length, that whoever wins in that scenario, we, the American people, will still lose, because neither man, in my opinion, and I think with 70% of the American people, are fit to serve. And she's pointing that out time and time again. Yes, I do agree that it's a little bit late in the game to be doing that. We could have used that earlier on and had a stronger showing. But I also think that when you had 12, 13 people up there for the Republican nomination against Donald Trump, that said something then that people have largely ignored. 13 people at the time thought he's not ready to serve again. He shouldn't be our president again. We need to move forward. And what she's trying to point out is that we need to move forward. And Nikki Haley represents that versus a Joe Biden, because she could serve 8 years. And that's not a situation that either Trump or Biden could do.
At this point, Donald Trump owes $355 million plus $83.3 million plus $5 million to E. Jean Carroll as well. He's facing a criminal case with the hush money case starting March 25th. That's a Class C felony in which he could face 4 years possibly in prison. If, in fact, he's found guilty, it's likely the Jack Smith case would go forward sometime midsummer. That thing, though, wouldn't wrap before November. Is there a possibility, you think Nikki Haley is looking at this, Basil, as a possibility of a contested convention? Is that why you think she's holding on?
Well, I think there are a couple of reasons. Maura can speak to this as well. She could be trying to push for that going down the road, because remember, this is all about delegates. And by the time the Super Tuesday comes around, he'll have likely most, if not a vast majority of delegates that can be allotted. But it still comes down to what happens on the convention floor and whether or not the political leadership of the party decides, enough is enough. And I would also add, if he's raising money to support his own criminal trials or his own trials, that doesn't leave a lot of money for the rest of the ticket.
Yeah.
So you're actually hurting other Republicans. Just as a strategist, I would say you're hurting other Republicans trying to run for office. So what is best for the party at large? And maybe that comes down to a convention.
So you think his sneakers are going to be able to pay off his $355 million plus debt?
Have we not seen everything? Happy President's Day, but that's certainly something new.
Happy President's Day, everybody. Basil Michael Moore, Gillespie, thank you.